Theravada collection on monastic law, a translation of the Pali Vinaya Pitaka into English, translated by Bhikkhu Brahmali, and read by Angus Cargill. 13. The account of the meeting with Bimbisara. After staying at Kāśyapīya for as long as he liked, the Buddha set out wandering towards Rajagaya with that large sangha of 1,000 monks, all of them previously dreadlocked ascetics. When he eventually arrived, he stayed in the cane grove at the Tripitaka shrine. King Bimbisara of Magadha was told, "Sir, the ascetic Gautama, the Sakyan, who has gone forth from the Sakyan clan, has arrived at Rajagaya and is staying in the cane grove at the Tripitaka shrine. That good Gautama has a fine reputation. He is a Buddha, perfected and fully awakened, complete in insight and conduct, happy, knower of the world, supreme leader of trainable people, teacher of gods and humans, awakened, a Buddha. With his own insight, he has seen this world with its gods, its lords of death, and its supreme beings, this society with its monastics and Brahmins, its gods and humans, and he makes it known to others. He has a teaching that's good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. It has a true goal and is well articulated. He sets out a perfectly complete and pure spiritual life. It's good to see such perfected ones." Then, accompanied by 120,000 Brahmin householders from Magadha, King Bimbisara went to the Buddha, bowed, and sat down. Among those Brahmins, some bowed to the Buddha and then sat down. Some exchanged pleasantries with him and then sat down. Some raised their joined palms and then sat down. Some announced their name and family and then sat down, and some sat down in silence. They thought, is the great ascetic practicing the spiritual life under Uruvela Kāśyapīya, or is Uruvela Kāśyapīya practicing the spiritual life under the great ascetic? Reading their minds, the Buddha spoke to Venerable Uruvela Kāśyapīya in verse. The resident of Uruvela, known as the emaciated one, what did he see that he abandoned the fire? Kāśyapīya, I ask you this. Why did you abandon the fire worship? As a reward for the sacrifice, they promise sense pleasures, sights, sounds, and tastes, and women too. But knowing the stain of ownership, I found no delight in worship and sacrifice. So your mind didn't delight there, in sounds and sights, and in tastes too. What then in the world of gods and humans does your mind delight in? Tell me this, Kāśyapīya. I saw the state of peace that is detached from sense existence, where there is nothing and no ownership. It doesn't change and can't be found through another. That's why I found no delight in worship and sacrifice. Uruvela Kāśyapīya got up from his seat, arranged his upper robe over one shoulder, bowed down with his head at the Buddha's feet, and said, "Sir, you're my teacher. I'm your disciple. You're my teacher. I'm your disciple." The 120,000 Brahmin householders from Magadha thought, so Uruvela Kāśyapīya is practicing the spiritual life under the great ascetic. Reading their minds, the Buddha gave them a progressive talk on generosity, morality, and heaven, on the downside, degradation, and defilement of worldly pleasures, and he revealed the benefits of renunciation. When the Buddha knew that their minds were ready, supple, without hindrances, joyful and confident, he revealed the teaching unique to the Buddhas: suffering, its origin, its end, and the path. And just as a clean and stainless cloth absorbs dye properly, so too, while they were sitting right there, 110,000 of those Brahmin householders, headed by Bimbisara, experienced the stainless vision of the truth. Anything that has a beginning has an end. The remaining 10,000 declared themselves as lay followers. King Bimbisara had seen the truth, had reached, understood, and penetrated it. He had gone beyond doubt and uncertainty, had attained to confidence, and had become independent of others in the teacher's instruction. He then said to the Buddha, "Sir, when I was a prince, I had 5 wishes, and they have now been fulfilled. When I was a prince, I thought, 'Oh, I wish they would anoint me as the king.' That was my first wish, which has now been fulfilled. May one who is perfected and fully awakened come to my kingdom. That was my second wish, which has now been fulfilled. May I get to visit that Buddha. That was my third wish, which has now been fulfilled. May that Buddha give me a teaching. That was my fourth wish, which has now been fulfilled. May I understand the teaching of that Buddha. That was my fifth wish, which has now been fulfilled. Wonderful, sir, wonderful. Just as one might set upright what had been overturned, or reveal what was hidden, or show the way to one who was lost, or bring a lamp into the darkness so that one with eyes might see what's there. Just so has the Buddha made the teaching clear in many ways. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the teaching, and the sangha of monks. Please accept me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life. And please accept tomorrow's meal from me, together with the sangha of monks." The Buddha consented by remaining silent. Knowing that the Buddha had consented, the king got up from his seat, bowed down, circumambulated the Buddha with his right side toward him, and left. The following morning, King Bimbisara had various kinds of fine foods prepared. He then had the Buddha informed that the meal was ready. The Buddha robed up, took his bowl and robe, and together with a large sangha of 1,000 monks, all previously dreadlocked ascetics, he entered Rajagaya. Just then Saka, the ruler of the gods, had transformed himself into a young Brahmin. He walked in front of the sangha of monks headed by the Buddha, chanting these verses: "The tamed one with the tamed ones, previously dreadlocked, the liberated one with the liberated ones, golden in color, the Buddha entered Rajagaya. The freed one with the freed ones, previously dreadlocked, the liberated one with the liberated ones, golden in color, the Buddha entered Rajagaya. The one crossed over with the ones crossed over, previously dreadlocked. The liberated one with the liberated ones, golden in color, the Buddha entered Rajagaya. The peaceful one with the peaceful ones, previously dreadlocked. The liberated one with the liberated ones, golden in color, the Buddha entered Rajagaya. He has 10 abidings and 10 powers. He knows 10 truths and has 10 qualities. With a following of 10 times 100, the Buddha entered Rajagaya. People saw Saka, and they said, 'This young Brahmin is handsome and graceful. Who is he?' Saka replied to them in verse: 'Unwavering, untamed in all respects, purified, perfected, and without equal. The one in the world who is happy, I'm his servant.' The Buddha then went to King Bimbisara's house, where he sat down on the prepared seat, together with the sangha of monks. The king personally served various kinds of fine foods to the sangha of monks headed by the Buddha. When the Buddha had finished his meal, the king sat down to one side, and he thought, "Where will the Buddha stay that's neither too far from habitation nor too close, that has good access roads and is easily accessible for people who seek him, that has few people during the day and is quiet at night, that's free from chatter and offers solitude, a private resting place suitable for seclusion?" And it occurred to him, "My bamboo grove park has all these qualities. Why don't I give it to the sangha of monks headed by the Buddha?" The king then took hold of a golden ceremonial vessel and dedicated the park to the Buddha, saying, "I give this park, the bamboo grove, to the sangha of monks headed by the Buddha." The Buddha accepted the park. After instructing, inspiring, and gladdening the king with a teaching, he got up from his seat and left. Soon afterwards, the Buddha gave a teaching and addressed the monks. "I allow monasteries." The account of the meeting with Bimbisara is finished. 14. The account of the going forth of Sariputta and Moggallana. At that time, the wanderer Sanchaya was staying at Rajagaya with a large group of 250 wanderers, including Sariputta and Moggallana. The two of them had made an agreement that whoever reached the deathless first would inform the other. Just then, Venerable Asaji robed up in the morning, took his bowl and robe, and entered Rajagaya for alms food. He was pleasing in his conduct, in going out and coming back, in looking ahead and looking aside, in bending and stretching his arms. His eyes were lowered, and he was perfect in deportment. The wanderer Sariputta observed all this and thought, "This monk is one of those in the world who are perfected or on the path to perfection. Why don't I go up to him and ask in whose name he has gone forth, and who his teacher is, or whose teachings he follows?" But it occurred to him, it's the wrong time to ask him while he's walking for alms food among the houses. Let me follow behind him, for one who seeks the path will find it. After walking for alms in Rajagaya, Asaji turned back with his alms food. Sariputta then went up to him and exchanged pleasantries with him. And he asked, "Venerable, your senses are clear, and your skin is pure and bright. In whose name have you gone forth? Who is your teacher? Or whose teaching do you follow?" "There's a great ascetic, a Sakyan, who has gone forth from the Sakyan clan. I've gone forth in his name. He is my teacher, and I follow his teaching." "But what does he teach?" "I've only recently gone forth. I'm new to this spiritual path. I'm not able to give you the teaching in full, but I can tell you the meaning in brief." Sariputta replied, "Yes, please," and he added, "Speak little or much, but do tell me the meaning. I just want the meaning. For what's the point of a detailed exposition?" And Asaji gave this teaching to the wanderer Sariputta. Of causally arisen things, the Buddha has declared their cause as well as their ending. This is the teaching of the great ascetic. When he had heard this teaching, Sariputta experienced the stainless vision of the truth. Anything that has a beginning has an end. Now this is the truth, even just this much, the sorrowless state that you have penetrated, unseen and neglected for innumerable eons. Then the wanderer Sariputta went to the wanderer Moggallana. When Moggallana saw him coming, he said to Sariputta, Your senses are clear and your skin is pure and bright. You haven't attained the deathless, have you? I have. But how did it happen? Sariputta told him everything up to and including the teaching given by Assaji. When he had heard this teaching, Moggallana experienced the stainless vision of the truth. Anything that has a beginning has an end. Now this is the truth, even just this much. The sorrowless state that you have penetrated, unseen and neglected for innumerable eons. Moggallana said to Sariputta, "Let's go to the Buddha. He's our teacher." But these 250 wanderers look to us for support. We must tell them first so that they may take appropriate action. And they went to those wanderers and said, "We're going over to the Buddha. He's our teacher. But we look to you for support. If you were to practice the spiritual life under the great ascetic, so will all of us." Then Sariputta and Moggallana went to Sanchaya and said, "We're going over to the Buddha. He's our teacher." "Don't go. The three of us can look after this community together." Sariputta and Moggallana said the same thing a second time and a third time, and they got the same reply. They then took those 250 wanderers and went to the bamboo grove. But the wanderer Sanchaya vomited hot blood right there. When the Buddha saw Sariputta and Moggallana coming, he said to the monks, "The two friends, Kolita and Upatissa, are coming. They will become my most eminent disciples, an excellent pair." They had not even reached the bamboo grove, yet had a profound range of knowledge about the supreme end of ownership, about freedom. And the teacher said of them, "These two friends are coming, Kolita and Upatissa. They will be an excellent pair, my most eminent disciples." Sariputta and Moggallana approached the Buddha, bowed down with their heads at his feet, and said, "Sir, we wish to receive the going forth in your presence. We wish to receive the full ordination." The Buddha said, "Come, monks, the teaching is well proclaimed. Practice the spiritual life to make a complete end of suffering." That was the full ordination of those venerables.